Okay, so today we're going to take a look at Cardano on the macro scale, review what's been going on with the price action. I'm going to take a look at what I think is likely to happen next and all that wonderful stuff. So, when I say next, what I mean really is on the macro scale, something that's going to happen over the next few months or so. So, as I get into it, if you find it useful and informative, smash the like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new, subscribe. And guys, what you're waiting for, check out Discord if you haven't done so already. Let's jump right down into the videos. So, this one's quite an interesting one. Okay, so here we have Cardano paired up with USDT. This is the 1 week chart, and Binance is our data source. Now, on a macro scale of the weekly time frame, things are not looking overly great for Cardano. There's a few things that we need to see happen here if we want to kind of see Cardano do well in the coming months. Now, anyone who's following the Bitcoin video that I put out earlier this morning will know that I suspect many altcoins will continue to have bear market low points. Cardano wasn't that long ago, June 2023. We saw it with a new lower low, and I suspect there's going to be more lower lows to come. This is simply because it just doesn't seem to have kind of the confidence in the price action. Now, when it comes to price action, it really only boils down to two things, right? Everything else is just noise that kind of confuses you and just tries to make you think certain things without actually having anything to back it up. The two things that you really have to focus in on is the supply element and the demand element. Those are the two things that really matter, no matter what the market is, right? That could be your bread or your eggs, all the way through to your fuel that you put in your car. Ultimately, supply and demand are everything you need to know. If you can understand the supply and demand elements, then you can be predictive over whether or not there's going to be more bearish times or bullish times for the price action of those items, right? And Cardano is no different. Essentially here, there is some really good things happening in the background, some fantastic things. You can argue that Cardano as a protocol is even stronger now than it was back in 2020 and 2021 when it started to have a fantastic run to the upside. In fact, I would say it's definitely one of the more superior ones out there at the moment. Now, that doesn't, unfortunately, represent itself in the price action. Although it is being stronger right now, we are in a bearish times across crypto, and there's very little demand out there. Now, that little demand is basically forcing price action to continue its moves to the downside. Now, from a price action point of view, outside of the supply and the demand, this can be seen and depicted through the 200 EMA and the 50 EMA on this weekly time frame. You can see that the 50 EMA, which is your short-term price action, is now lower than the long-term price action, that is the 200 EMA. And the price is actually below both of those, basically symbolizing that we are incredibly weak in the price action on the chart from a candlestick point of view. Okay, this shows us that we are in bearish times. Now, if you are a traditional analyst or trader, then you'll know that the 200 EMA is your trend filter. If you're below it, you go short, and if you're above it, you go long, right? It's kind of one of the easiest things and easiest tools to just kind of quickly ascertain whether you are going to be going long or going short, right? Many analysts and traders out there will say that if you're wanting to go long on a market and you're below the 200 EMA, then you're basically increasing risks of failure. Okay, so usually you want to be taking trades and things like that that actually suit the direction that you're trying to go in, right? So what we find ourselves with here is the fact that we are lower than the 200 and lower than the 50 EMA. And we find ourselves with a trend line, if we connect the highs and the lows, actually also looking quite bearish. Now, we had a potential breakout recently from this low point. You can see it just down here, week commencing the 10th of July. And we actually wicked up above the trend line. However, we failed to close above it, and that is very important. So although we wicked up higher there, we failed to actually get a close position, and it doesn't look overly too strong right now either. So, it could of course turn, it could of course change, but for now, with the data that it sits at the moment, from a price action point of view, it doesn't look overly strong. Then, of course, we have to consider some of the other things that are going on in the background, things that could be more bullish and that could change the price action. Okay, and these things, they are very, very interesting to me. So if we just dive down into the world of Cardano a little bit deeper than the price action, just for a moment, we can see that the total value locked for Cardano at the dollar value, and this is really important, at the dollar value is growing. Okay, when I last checked it was 168 million. Now I don't know what it is at the point of recording this video, but it was quite meaningful, and it had been growing quite steadily during 2023. And you might be thinking, well, obviously, you know, price action's been moving up, but it's not so obvious, because if you think about it, we had a new lower low in June of 2023. The price of ADA was significantly lower, right? Now, that's quite important, because if the dollar value of total value locked is growing whilst the price is going down, then that's a significant amount of ADA and supply of ADA going in getting locked up. Okay, it's on the increase. So the amount of ADA is on the increase, which is increasing the amount of dollars that's being locked up, whilst price action is actually dropping down. So let's bring up this chart again. So as we're pulling down here into this new lower low, total value locked is growing. That means more and more of the supply of ADA is being locked up, which essentially means that the supply of ADA is shrinking. And that's going to be a big catalyst for the future. It's not something that's going to happen or have an impact on us right now, but in the months to come, that could be very, very important to the price action. As I said earlier, right, everything comes down to supply and demand. And if you can understand the supply and the demand elements, then it's very important to basically take those into consideration of your analysis. So what we have here is a recipe for success, but it doesn't end just there either. Because along with total value locked growing, we can also see a lot of projects building on the Cardano ecosystem, and for good reasons. It's very secure. It's got really good potential, and it's been built with future in mind, right? It's something that's going to last the test of time, in my opinion. Unlike some other protocols that keep changing their narratives, they're going to be going after metaverses, then they're going after AI, and then they're going after whatever the next buzzword is, right? Cardano doesn't do that. Now, there's projects that build on it that might do that, but for Cardano, it's very much a platform that's being built with purpose in mind, and it has been from the get-go. So, with over 1,200 dApps in production on the Cardano ecosystem, total value locked growing, I think we're going to see some interesting things unfold over the coming months. So let's kind of put this down back into our supply and demand understanding. Okay, so if total value locked is growing, more ADA of the ADA supply is basically being locked up. So the supply of ADA is shrinking that's available for purchase. So think about the amount of ADA that's available to be purchased as decreasing. And we have 1,200 dApps being built for the ecosystem. That's going to potentially increase the demand, right? It's going to bring people to the ecosystem that want to use these dApps. And as such, you're going to see a shock to the supply-demand balances, right? Or create an imbalance in the supply and the demand. And that could be what really creates this next move to the upside, and a pretty meaningful one for Cardano's ADA. Now, timing that's going to be quite difficult until we know where this thing's likely to go. At the moment, I look at this and I think to myself, we probably are going to have to come down a little bit deeper. And for anyone who's been following the recent videos will know I do scope out basically 15 to 22 cent. I like that range at the moment. 15 to 18 is probably the most realistic, but now I'd like to kind of be hopeful that maybe we don't have to drop down that low. But for now, that's kind of where things are currently sat. And for the most part, that there would actually finish our structure off and basically be the bottom for ADA in the bearish market, potentially. In terms of the future price predictions, though, once all of these kind of bearish times are out of the way, and with the imbalance of the supply and demand, we're going to see, in my opinion, pretty significant growth. Like I say, I have this down at 19 here, but I think I'm going to lower this down to our 18 cent for now. I'm going to pull that to about here, 18.02 for now. It's going to show us with a few different things. Let's go ahead and pull this back in line. Okay, so we have the actual target range, and I know this is going to really hurt people's heads a little bit because they're going to jump on the whole market cap nonsense, but $31.50 to $106.56. Now, that is pretty high, okay, even by my kind of assumptions of things. With total value locked growing, 1,200 dApps being built, I think it's a challenge to get to $31, but not impossible. And let's just focus on that market cap equation for a second, right? So let's just kind of focus there, because market cap seems to hurt people's heads a little bit. So market cap is basically your circulating supply. Okay, I'm not going to be able to write with a. No, I'm not going to be able to write with a. With a mouse. It's your supply. I'm just going to go S for supply, and you're going to basically multiply that by your price. I'm just going to put P there. Okay, and so when you multiply your supply by your price, you end up with market cap, right? And I'll put a little MC for that. Okay, so supply multiplied by price gets you market cap. So what does that actually tell you? It tells you very little. What it tells you essentially is that if you had your entire circulating supply that could be liquidated at a given moment, then it would be, that kind of value, the market cap kind of value. However, it's impossible to actually liquidate your entire circulating supply instantaneously. Okay, anyone who understands supply and demand imbalances will know that the second that you start selling, you're going to increase the supply, which will then drop the price, meaning that your market cap is just theoretical. You cannot sell your entire market cap's worth of value, if you want to call it that, instantaneously. So what purpose does market cap actually have? Well, market cap is a theoretical number. It's a theoretical value. And it's designed simply, in my opinion, to confuse retail investors, because anyone with any kind of common sense will know that it's not actually a useful metric within the crypto space. It doesn't do us any favors whatsoever when it comes to the idea of being able to ascertain value. It doesn't show you the amount of money that's flowed into a project. It doesn't show you the liquidity of a project. It's just a theoretical number of supply, circulating supply, multiplied by price. And so it's a macro level pricing, sure, but price in itself is very subjective to the imbalances of supply and demand. So market cap isn't something that you can use to say, look, it's worth X amount of money. And this is the problem with market cap. And you see this all over the place. It's all over the internet. People saying, how does Cardano have a value of X market cap? Well, it doesn't, because market cap doesn't represent value. Okay, price doesn't represent value necessarily. Okay, not when it's so fragile in these tokenized markets. Okay, so you have to kind of understand that market cap, realistically speaking, can be great for ranking your projects from, rank 1 through to 20,000, but it doesn't actually show you anything meaningful. It doesn't really help you ascertain whether something is undervalued or overvalued. Okay, now market cap in itself is a representation, I guess, of how big a project can be. Okay, more than anything else. And so $31, yeah, sure. $31 multiplied by the circulating supply would basically be whatever the market cap is. And market cap is dictated by price, and therefore the market cap cannot dictate the price. Okay, and it's important that we understand that. So although $31 will be quite difficult, it requires a significant shrinkage of the supply and a very, very dramatic increase in the demand, but it is technically possible to occur. Market cap wouldn't be a barrier to that one. However, I like to think more about this second yellow box. This yellow box down here is probably the one that is more important, as it's the one that I think is the most realistic. Basically $4.40 to $10.33. And this one, I think, will be very significant gains, but will be the first kind of area that I would look for. This basically is the fib scales of 0.618 to the 0.786, two areas in price that the retail investors and the markets are just going to kind of react to. So we might find ourselves getting rejected from these areas temporarily and maybe moving up higher. But, I would love to see a $31 ADA. I just don't think that's necessarily something that we can predict this far out. It's something that we'd have to see the internal workings as to whether or not we're going to see that kind of run upwards. I would not mind it at all though, so fingers crossed that maybe that does happen. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below, but I think, guys, I'm going to wrap this video up right there. If you found it useful and informative, smash the like button. I do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, selecting all the notifications, and you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. And if you haven't yet joined us in Discord, guys, then why not check it out? Link is in the description down below. Until the next one, have a fantastic day.
We are not financial advisors, and none of what we have communicated verbally or in writing here should be considered as financial advice. It is not. Do your own research before investing in any digital asset or affiliate offers, and understand that investing in any crypto is risky. If you do, you need to be prepared to lose your entire investment. This video is for information and entertainment purposes only. All our videos are strictly personal opinions. Please make sure you do your own research and never take our opinions for financial guidance. There are multiple strategies, and not all strategies fit all people. Our videos are not financial advice.